I want to ask you something. Can you guess her age? I have a photograph of her on my desk, and I have been looking at it for 3 weeks, trying to decide how to tell you about her. So, I will just tell you what I see. She has white hair, the color of cotton, pulled back with a thin black ribbon. Her cheekbones are visible, but her cheeks are not hollow. Her hands are resting on a clay bowl. The skin on her hands is soft, and there is one age spot on the left wrist. Only one. Her eyes are dark and steady. Looking at the photograph, I would say she is 55, maybe 58. Probably not older than 60. She is 72. Her name is Eleni. She lives in a village on the peninsula that touches Mount Athos near Orinopolis, where the road begins to climb and the cypress trees lean in towards the sea. And the reason I want to tell you about her is not because she is exceptional. It is because in her village, there are 47 other women who look just like her. 47 women walking 3 kilometers a day on stone paths, still pickling olives in October, still threading the loom in winter, taking no medication, whose hands look 20 years younger than they actually are. About 4 months ago, my own mother turned 68, and the conversation we are having now, the one most women in their late 60s are having with their daughters, is the conversation about hormone replacement, collagen powder, calcium, joint pain, memory slipping, and the skin on her arms. I do not know if you have had a version of this conversation. Maybe you are having it for yourself. Maybe you are the one looking in the mirror in the morning and thinking, when did this happen? I have caught myself doing it at 43, and I am not going to pretend I have figured it out. What I have done is started looking at the women who, for reasons that are not entirely accidental, seem to be doing this stage of life differently. And Eleni, who could pass for 55 at 72, is the one I keep coming back to because Eleni is not eating the way we are told women her age should eat. She is eating the way her grandmother ate. And her grandmother ate the way women on that peninsula have eaten for hundreds of years, which is, by accident, almost entirely vegan, not by ideology, but by the calendar. Eleni was born in 1953 in Irissos, a village that is not on most maps. A 40-minute drive from Orinopolis, the last secular town before you reach the monastic state of Athos. The villages around the peninsula and around the great rock pillars of Meteora, 200 kilometers west, share something almost nowhere else in Europe still shares. They live by the Orthodox liturgical calendar. The Orthodox liturgical calendar is, when you add up the days, about 190 vegan days a year. Not vegetarian, but vegan. No dairy, no eggs, no meat, no fish on most fasting days. Olives, bread, legumes, greens, tahini, vegetables, herbs, nuts, fruit, oil, and on certain days, not even oil. This is not a diet for Eleni. This is the rhythm of her week, of her year, of every year she has been alive. She has done it for 72 years. Her mother did it for 91, her grandmother for 96. When an old woman dies, the priest reads her name at the next liturgy, and the women bring her favorite dish to the wake. The favorite dish, more often than not, is beans. The white kind, they call gigantes. So what is Eleni eating that has her hands looking like the hands of a woman in her 50s? The answer is a rotation. And the part I find most beautiful is that the rotation is the same week after week. There is no decision fatigue in Eleni's kitchen. The week tells her, the calendar tells her, the garden, when it is the season, tells her. On Wednesday and Friday, the 2 weekly fast days Orthodox tradition holds without exception. She makes a soup of trahanas, a sun-dried fermented mix of cracked wheat, made in fasting weeks with almond milk, or simply broth and a little tomato. She eats it with bread. She puts a spoonful of tahini on the bread. She drinks mountain tea, the wild sideritis that grows above the village. On weekends, she might add fish or a small portion of cheese. But for half the year, she is vegan by default. And for the full 40 days of Great Lent, the 40 days before Christmas, and the 2 weeks of the Dormition fast in August, she is vegan with discipline. The way she eats is not a restriction. It is a structure she has been given, which means she does not have to invent it. By the time she is 40, her body knows exactly what to expect and exactly when. By the time she is 72, her hormones have never been on the modern American roller coaster. They have been on the calendar. When was the last time you cooked something that took longer than 30 minutes? Not for Thanksgiving, but on an ordinary Tuesday in March. I noticed something about myself a few months ago. Almost every meal I make takes either 5 minutes or 3 hours, and almost nothing in between. Elaine's meals take an hour and a half, and the hour and a half is not labor. It is mostly the beans cooking on a low flame while she does other things. But the hour and a half exists, and I wonder sometimes whether what we are missing is not the food itself. It is the hour and a half. For the women watching and thinking, this sounds beautiful, but I do not have a peninsula in Greece. There is a 90-day version of these practices I helped put together, called the Mediterranean Way Protocol. It is not a diet. It is a way of structuring the week around 4 or 5 anchor foods and 1 or 2 anchor rituals, modeled on what women like Elaine actually do, but adapted for a Tuesday in Ohio or in Texas or in Manchester. The link is in the description. I made it because I wanted it for my own mother, and I thought you might want a version for yourself or for someone you love. So what is actually happening in Elaine's body? There are 4 things, and I am going to tell them to you quietly. The first is about skin. We have been told that to keep our skin firm after 60, we need to eat collagen, animal collagen, the powder you scoop into your coffee. Elaine has never had collagen powder, not 1 scoop, and her skin is firmer than mine. What Elaine has instead is the 4 things her body actually needs to make its own collagen every day, in rotation, in the food. There is silica from the wild sideritis tea and the oats in her soup. There is vitamin C from the red peppers in her bean stew and the greens she picks in the spring. There is the amino acid proline in beans, in walnuts, and in the tahini. And there is zinc in the pumpkin seeds. The Greeks roast pumpkin seeds and grind them with honey into a brittle called pastelli. Eleni has a small square on most days, the size of a domino. That square plus the tahini plus the walnuts she keeps in a clay jar, plus the lentils twice a week. That is everything her body needs to build the matrix of her own skin from the inside. The limiting step in collagen synthesis is not how much collagen you eat. It is whether you have the proline and the vitamin C and the silica and the zinc in your bloodstream at the same time. Eleni has them all every day by accident of her grandmother's cooking. The second thing is about hormones, and this is the one I most want my mother to hear. The drop in estrogen women go through between 45 and 60 is one of the hardest physical transitions a body can be asked to make. It is not just the hot flashes, it is the bones thinning, the skin getting drier, the joints aching, and the sleep that breaks at 3 hours in the morning. American women are told the answer is either to medicate the crash with hormone replacement or to suffer through it. Elaine's grandmother did neither. What she did, without knowing it, was eat a rotation of foods that each contributed a small molecular cousin of estrogen every day. The pomegranate, which they reduce into a thick, dark syrup called petamezi, contains a compound that gut bacteria turn into urolithin A. Urolithin A docks gently onto the same receptors estrogen used to dock onto, and the receptors do not go cold. The tahini contains sesame lignans, which the gut converts into a substance that supports the protein-carrying hormones around the body. The walnuts contribute tocopherol, the kind of vitamin E the female body uses to soften the menopausal transition. And the flaxseed, which Eleni grinds in a small wooden mortar and adds to the morning trahanas, gives her lignans called SDG, which the gut converts to enterolactone, which the bones recognize. None of these substances replace estrogen. What they do is keep the body from experiencing the drop as a collapse. The body experiences it as a slow descent, almost a glide. And I think that is part of what I see in Elaine's face. The face of a woman whose body was never asked to fall. The third thing is about the brain. And I am going to be careful here because I do not want to oversell what is a real thing but a slow thing. Elaine drinks sideritis tea in the morning with bread. In the afternoon after the beans are on the stove. In the evening with a fig. By the end of the day, she has had 5 or 6 small cups. Sideritis is the Greek mountain tea, the bushy plant with the yellow-gray flowers that grows above 800 meters on the limestone slopes. The men go up in July and cut the whole plant near the root and hang it upside down to dry. They have been doing this for centuries. The plant contains a flavonoid that, in the small studies that exist, appears to nudge the brain to produce more of a substance called BDNF. BDNF is what the brain uses to keep its connections supple. The plant also seems to gently support the acetylcholine system, which is the first system to slip in age-related memory loss. None of this is dramatic. There is no overnight effect. But you give a brain this gentle support 6 cups a day for 30 years, and at 72, the woman who has been drinking it is still teaching her granddaughter how to make trahanas, still remembering the saints' days, still arguing with the village priest about the meaning of the parable. Eleni does all 3. I have video of her doing 2 of them. The 4th thing is about the oil, not olive oil. The oil I want to mention is the pumpkin seed oil Eleni keeps in a small dark green bottle next to the salt. She uses it to finish a bean stew. She uses it on bread when she does not want tahini. She drizzles it on the trahanas. And she takes 1 teaspoon every morning on its own, as her grandmother told her to do. Pumpkin seed oil in its raw, cold-pressed form carries the omega-3 plant fat that, in older women like Eleni, is converted at a much higher rate into the long-chain omega-3 that the brain, the heart, and the skin all need. The conversion in young women is around 20%. The conversion in older vegan women whose bodies have not been competing with animal fats for the same enzymes for 50 years is higher. Eleni's body, by virtue of having eaten almost no animal fat for 72 years, is doing the conversion better than mine is doing it at 43. That is the part that, when I learned it, made me put the paper down and go for a walk. I want to ask you one more thing. If you started this week to drink a small cup of mountain tea in the afternoon, to put a spoonful of tahini on your bread, to soak the giant white beans on Sunday night and cook them on Monday morning with tomato and onion and oil, if you started doing those 4 things and you told one person in your family that you were doing them, who would that person be? Just hold the answer for a second, because the practice is only half of what matters. The other half is the witness. Eleni learned from her mother. Her mother learned from her grandmother. The reason these practices have lasted is not because they are scientifically optimal. The reason they have lasted is because women taught them to other women in their own kitchens. And I think the thing my own mother needs more than the hormones, more than the collagen powder, is for one of her daughters to call her on a Sunday and say, "The beans are on, come over." Before we keep going, I want to come back to the photograph one more time, because there is a moment in it I have not told you about. Eleni's left hand is resting on the rim of the bowl. Her right hand is holding something. It is a pomegranate, half a pomegranate. She has split it in 2 with a knife, and 1/2 is in the bowl, and the other half is in her hand. What the photograph caught her doing is reaching toward the bowl with the half in her hand, about to press the seeds out with her thumb. The seeds are catching the morning light coming through the window. They look like garnets, and the part I keep returning to is her expression. She is not smiling. She is concentrating. She has done this thousands of times. And there is a calmness in her face I have been trying to put words around for 3 weeks. The closest I can get is this. It is the calmness of a woman who knows what she is doing today and what she will be doing tomorrow and what she will be doing on Friday, because Friday is a fasting day. It is the calmness that comes from a life that does not have to be invented every morning. And a lot of the exhaustion women my age and my mother's age feel is not just the hormones and not just the work. I think it is the exhaustion of having to invent the week from scratch every Sunday night. Eleni does not invent the week. The week is given to her. And what she has to do inside the given week is be present to it. If I could ask you to do one thing this week, it would be this. On Sunday night, soak a cup of giant white beans, the gigantes if you can find them, or the largest white beans your store has. On Monday morning, drain them. Put them in a heavy pot with 1 chopped onion, 2 big spoonfuls of tomato paste, a few crushed garlic cloves, and plenty of olive oil. And I mean plenty, more than feels reasonable, and water to cover by 2 fingers. Add a bay leaf. Put the lid on. Put the heat as low as it will go. Walk away for 2 hours. When you come back, the beans will be tender. Salt them then, not before. Drizzle a little more oil on top. Eat them with bread. Save the rest for the week. While the beans are cooking, make a small pot of mountain tea. You can find sideritis in any Greek or Mediterranean grocery or online. and drink it in the afternoon with a small piece of bread and a spoonful of tahini. That is the practice. If you do it next Monday too, and the Monday after, by the end of the third month, you will have done something you will not be able to put into words, but that your body will know. You do not have to do it for 96 years. You can do it for 10 weeks and see what happens to your sleep. And if the version of all of this organized into a 90-day plan is the way you would actually start, the Mediterranean Way protocol is what I made for that. The week is laid out, the shopping list is short, the substitutes for ingredients you cannot find are in the back. The link is in the description, the first line. I just wanted you to know it exists. Before you go, I want to tell you what Eleni said to the woman who was visiting from Athens, the one who wrote down the conversation I read in a small Greek health journal. The visitor asked her, the way visitors always ask, what her secret was. And Eleni said, "The secret is that there is no secret. The secret is that I have been doing this since I was a child. The secret is that my mother showed me how. The secret is that on Friday, I do not eat the cheese because Friday is the day. And on Sunday, after the liturgy, my granddaughter comes and we eat the beans together. The secret," she said, "is that I am not alone in the kitchen." That is what she said, and I have been thinking about it ever since. I want to leave you with one thing. If you do not remember the studies, if you do not remember the names of the flavonoids in the mountain tea, if you do not remember the percentage of conversion of the plant omega-3s in the bodies of older vegan women, I want you to remember Eleni's expression in the photograph, the calmness of the hand on the rim of the bowl, the pomegranate in the morning light, and the beans on the back of the stove on the third hour, almost ready because someone is coming over. If this story changed the way you look at the simple rhythms of life and the food on your table, please subscribe and like this channel. We are uncovering the ancient wisdom that the modern world has tried to bury. Let's cultivate a better future together. The next treasure of history will be open soon.